When Lily reached her trembling hand toward the untamable Mustang, every staff member at the ranch held their breath, certain they were about to witness a disaster. Instead, Midnight, the horse no one could approach, lowered his head to meet her touch, recognizing in her eyes the same broken spirit that haunted his own. The New Mexico desert stretched endlessly under the burning afternoon sun, a landscape of harsh beauty that matched the emotional wasteland inside 17-year-old Lily Anderson. She sat motionless in the back seat of the dusty SUV, her thin frame pressed against the door as if trying to disappear. Through the window, she watched rock formations and scrubby vegetation pass by in a blur of burnt orange and faded green. The social worker driving the vehicle, Mrs. Hernandez, occasionally glanced at her in the rearview mirror, her eyes filled with a familiar mixture of pity and resignation that Lily had grown to despise. "We're almost there, Lily," Mrs. Hernandez said, breaking the hour-long silence. "Sunrise Ranch is just beyond that ridge. I think you'll like it there." Lily didn't respond. She'd heard similar promises before each of her 7 foster placements. Each time, the outcome had been the same: disappointment, rejection, and eventually another ride in another car to another stranger's home. Only this time was different. This wasn't just another foster home, it was what they called a therapeutic wilderness program, the court's last resort before juvenile detention. Her slender fingers unconsciously traced the faded cigarette burn scars on her inner wrist, a permanent reminder of her biological father's creative punishments. 10 years had passed since she'd been removed from her parents' home, yet the physical and emotional scars remained as fresh as ever. The SUV crested a hill, revealing a cluster of rustic buildings nestled against a backdrop of red cliffs. A large wooden sign reading "Sunrise Ranch, where healing begins," stood at the entrance to a long dirt driveway. Lily felt her heart rate quicken, her anxiety manifesting as a tightness in her chest that made it difficult to breathe. As they pulled up to the main building, a tall man with weathered skin and gray-streaked hair emerged. He wore faded jeans and a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking more like a cowboy than the therapists Lily had encountered before. "That's Dr. Thompson," Mrs. Hernandez explained, parking the car. "He runs the program. He's helped many teens like you." Teens like me, Lily thought bitterly. Broken, unwanted, disposable. Dr. Thompson approached with an easy smile as they exited the vehicle. "Oh, you must be Lily," he said, his voice deep but gentle. "Welcome to Sunrise Ranch." Lily kept her eyes fixed on the dusty ground, her dark hair falling forward to shield her face. She clutched her small duffel bag, containing everything she owned in the world, like a shield against her chest. "I'll show you around, introduce you to the other residents," Dr. Thompson continued, seemingly unfazed by her silence. "We have 8 other teens here right now. Everyone helps with the daily chores, caring for the animals, maintaining the grounds, preparing meals. It's all part of the healing process." Mrs. Hernandez placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, which she immediately shrugged off. "I'll leave you in good hands," the social worker said. "I'll check in next month to see how you're settling in." As Mrs. Hernandez drove away, Lily felt the familiar sensation of abandonment wash over her, another person dropping her off and disappearing, another place where she didn't belong. "Let me show you to your cabin," Dr. Thompson said, gesturing toward a path that led to several small wooden structures. "Dinner's at 6. You'll meet everyone then." Lily followed silently, taking in her surroundings with the hypervigilance that had become second nature. She noticed everything: the location of exits, potential hiding places, the distance between buildings. Old survival habits died hard. Her cabin was simple but clean: a twin bed, a small dresser, a desk and chair, and a tiny bathroom. Through the window, she could see a large corral where several horses grazed peacefully. "That's our stable area," Dr. Thompson explained, following her gaze. "Working with the horses is a big part of our program. Many of them are rescued, former wild mustangs or abandoned animals that needed a second chance, kind of like the teens who come here." Lily's eyes narrowed at the comparison. She wasn't some animal that needed to be rescued or rehabilitated. "I'll let you get settled," he said, moving toward the door. "One of our staff members, Sarah, will come by in about an hour to take you to dinner." When he was gone, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, her body rigid with tension. This place was supposed to be her last chance, the final opportunity to adjust before the system gave up on her entirely. 6 months of wilderness therapy, then a reassessment, 6 months in this remote desert outpost with strangers who claimed they could fix her. Lily's gaze drifted back to the window, to the horses in the distance. Something about their quiet presence drew her attention, momentarily distracting her from the storm of anxiety and resentment swirling inside her. For a brief moment, she felt something unfamiliar stir within her chest, a tiny flicker of curiosity that pierced through the protective numbness she'd cultivated for years. She quickly suppressed it. Hope was dangerous. Hope led to disappointment, and Lily Anderson had experienced enough disappointment to last several lifetimes. Dinner at Sunrise Ranch was a noisy affair. 8 teenagers sat around a large wooden table in the main building's dining area, talking and laughing with a familiarity that made Lily feel even more like an outsider. She sat at the end of the table, pushing mashed potatoes around her plate and avoiding eye contact with anyone who tried to engage her. "You must be Lily," said a girl with bright red hair and freckles, sliding into the seat next to her. "I'm Emma. I've been here 4 months. It sucks at first, but it gets better." Lily gave a non-committal shrug, taking a small bite of chicken to avoid having to respond. "Not much of a talker, huh?" Emma continued, undeterred. "That's cool." "Jason over there," she pointed to a lanky boy with acne scars, "didn't say a word for his first 3 weeks. Now we can't shut him up." "I heard that," Jason called from across the table, but he was smiling. Lily observed the group dynamics carefully. Despite their apparent comfort with each other, she could see signs that these teens were like her, damaged in various ways. A girl with sleeve tattoos had telltale track marks barely visible beneath the ink. A boy with glasses nervously tapped his fork against his plate in a repetitive pattern, his eyes darting around the room. Another girl had the too thin frame of someone recovering from an eating disorder. Sarah, the staff member who had escorted Lily to dinner, stood at the head of the table. Tomorrow's schedule is posted on the board. Remember, we start with morning chores at 6, then breakfast, group therapy at 9, individual sessions in the afternoon, and equine therapy after lunch. The mention of horses caused a small ripple of excitement among some of the teens. Lily noticed how their faces brightened. "What's equine therapy?" she asked Emma quietly, her curiosity momentarily overcoming her resolve to remain silent. Emma looked surprised to hear her speak. "It's working with the horses. Each of us gets assigned one to take care of and bond with. It's actually the best part about being here." She lowered her voice. "Dr. Thompson believes horses can sense our emotions better than people can. They don't judge, you know." Lily didn't know, but something about the concept intrigued her. Animals had always been easier for her to understand than humans. In her 3rd foster home, the family's elderly cat had been her only source of comfort. After dinner, Sarah led them to a fire pit outside where logs were arranged in a circle for seating. "Evening reflection," Emma explained as they walked. "We talk about our day, set intentions for tomorrow. Don't worry, You don't have to share if you don't want to. Lily sat silently through the session, watching as the other teens took turns speaking about their day, their challenges, their small victories. Dr. Thompson facilitated, occasionally asking gentle questions, but never pushing when someone hesitated. Lily was surprised by his approach, so different from the probing, insistent therapists she'd encountered before. As the fire died down and the session ended, Dr. Thompson approached her. I know today has been overwhelming. Tomorrow will be better. Get some rest, and I'll see you in the morning. Back in her cabin, Lily lay awake long after lights out, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the desert night. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the wind whispered through the juniper trees outside her window. Despite her exhaustion, sleep wouldn't come. Around midnight, she got up and moved to the window. The desert was transformed by moonlight, the landscape bathed in silver. Her attention was drawn to movement in the corral area. A dark shape paced along the fence line. A horse, its coat so black it seemed to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. Lily watched, transfixed, as the animal moved with restless energy, so different from the calm demeanor of the other horses she'd seen earlier. Even from a distance, she could sense its agitation, its refusal to settle. The next morning came too quickly. Sarah knocked on her door at 5:30 a.m., her voice cheerful. "Rise and shine, Lily. Time for morning chores." Exhausted from her sleepless night, Lily dragged herself through the morning routine. After a quick orientation, she was assigned to help with feeding the chickens and collecting eggs, a simple task that required minimal interaction with others. At breakfast, Emma found her again. "You look like you didn't sleep," she observed, sliding a cup of coffee across the table. "First night's always the hardest." "Thanks," Lily murmured, accepting the coffee gratefully. "You're with Dr. Thompson for your individual session at 2 a.m., Emma continued, "and equine therapy is at 3. Word is you're getting assigned to Midnight." "Midnight? The new Mustang they brought in last month? No one's been able to work with him yet." Emma's expression was a mixture of concern and curiosity. He was captured during a Bureau of Land Management roundup, wild as they come. They usually don't put new residents with the difficult horses. But Dr. Thompson has his reasons, I guess. The morning passed in a blur of group therapy and orientation activities. Lily participated minimally, speaking only when directly addressed and keeping her responses brief. By lunchtime, she was emotionally drained from the constant social interaction, craving solitude. During her individual session with Dr. Thompson, she sat stiffly in an armchair, arms crossed protectively over her chest. "I'm not going to ask you to tell me your life story today, Lily," he said, surprising her. "I know you've probably had to repeat it dozens of times to different social workers, therapists, foster parents. That can be its own form of trauma." She looked up, momentarily caught off guard by his understanding. "Instead, I want to talk about your assignment for equine therapy. You'll be working with a horse named Midnight. I heard he's difficult," Lily said cautiously. Dr. Thompson nodded. "He is. Like you, Midnight has had a challenging path. He was born wild, roaming the mountains with his herd. Then he was captured, separated from everything he knew. Since arriving here, he's rejected every attempt at connection." "Why are you giving him to me then?" Lily asked, a hint of defiance in her tone. "Setting me up to fail on my first day." "Quite the opposite," Dr. Thompson said. "I believe you might understand each other in ways that others can't. Sometimes, Lily, the most wounded souls recognize each other." Something in his words resonated with her, though she wasn't ready to admit it. As she left his office for equine therapy, she felt a strange mixture of apprehension and anticipation. an unfamiliar feeling after years of emotional numbness. The equine therapy area consisted of a large circular corral surrounded by a sturdy wooden fence. Several smaller enclosures branched off from it, each holding a different horse. Lily stood rigidly beside Marcus, the equine therapist, a soft-spoken man with kind eyes and calloused hands. Around them, the other teens were already with their assigned horses, some grooming them, others simply standing in quiet communion. "Midnight's in the far pen," Marcus explained, pointing to an isolated enclosure set slightly apart from the others. "We keep him separated because he tends to agitate the other horses." As they approached, Lily caught her first close look at the horse she'd glimpsed in the moonlight. Midnight was even more impressive up close, a powerful black Mustang with a wild gleam in his dark eyes. His coat was sleek, but bore visible scars along his flanks. When he sensed their approach, his ears flattened against his head, and he moved to the furthest corner of the pen, muscles tensed, as if ready to flee or fight. "He's still adjusting," Marcus said diplomatically. "Most of these horses come to us with their own histories of trauma, abuse, neglect, abandonment, like the teenagers who work with them." Lily shot him a sharp look. "I'm not like the others." "I didn't say you were," Marcus replied evenly. "Everyone's story is unique, but pain has common threads." He handed her a lead rope. "We won't try to approach him today. Just sit with him. Let him get used to your presence. There's a stool inside the pen. Just sit and be." "That's it?" Lily asked skeptically. "That's it, for now." With obvious reluctance, Marcus opened the gate to Midnight's enclosure. "I'll be right outside if you need anything. Remember, no sudden movements. Speak softly if you need to speak at all." Lily entered the pen, feeling the immediate tension in the air. Midnight pawed at the ground, nostrils flaring as he assessed this new intrusion into his space. She made her way to the wooden stool in the center of the enclosure, never turning her back on the horse, and sat down. From across the corral, she could feel the stares of the other teens, their curiosity about the new girl paired with the untamable horse. Emma gave her an encouraging thumbs up, but Lily ignored it, focusing instead on Midnight. For several minutes, they regarded each other warily. Lily noticed how the horse's eyes tracked her every movement, how his body remained coiled with tension. She recognized that vigilance had lived with it herself for as long as she could remember. Always watching, always waiting for the next threat, the next blow, the next betrayal. "I get it," she said softly, the words emerging unbidden. "You don't want to be here either." Midnight's ear twitched at the sound of her voice, but he remained in his corner, maintaining the maximum possible distance between them. Lily continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They think they're helping, but they don't understand. Once you've been hurt badly enough, trust doesn't come back." Not really. She wasn't sure why she was talking to the horse, except that it felt easier than talking to any of the humans at the ranch. There was no expectation of response, no judgment in those dark eyes, only a wariness that mirrored her own. "My dad used to put his cigarettes out on my skin when I was little," she found herself saying, the confession slipping out in this strange, safe space. "My mom watched and did nothing. 7 foster homes later, and I'm still the girl nobody wants." Midnight shifted slightly, his ears now perked forward, listening. "Everyone gives up eventually," she continued. "They all start out thinking they can fix me, but they can't. I'm not fixable." To her surprise, Midnight took a tentative step toward her, then another. He stopped several yards away, still maintaining a safe distance, but the movement felt significant. Marcus, observing from outside the pen, made a small sound of surprise. "He's never done that before," he said quietly to Dr. Thompson, who had joined him at the fence. Lily remained still, hardly daring to breathe as the horse regarded her with intense scrutiny. There was something in his gaze that struck her, not just fear or wariness, but a profound sadness that resonated with her own. "My time's up for today," Marcus eventually called, breaking the strange communion between girl and horse. As Lily stood to leave, Midnight retreated back to his corner, the brief moment of connection severed. Yet something had shifted, however slightly, in the space between them. "How was it?" Emma asked eagerly as they walked back to the main building. Lily shrugged, unwilling to acknowledge the emotional impact of the encounter. He's just a horse," she said dismissively. But later that night, alone in her cabin, she found herself drawn once again to the window, watching as Midnight paced in the moonlight. Something about his solitary figure against the vast desert backdrop spoke to her in ways she couldn't articulate. For the first time in years, Lily felt a crack in the wall she'd built around her heart, a hairline fracture that both terrified and intrigued her. She pressed her palm against the cool glass of the window, as if reaching out across the distance to the kindred spirit she'd recognized in those dark, knowing eyes. Behind her, the door to her cabin opened without warning. Lily spun around, heart racing, to find Dr. Thompson standing in the doorway. "Sorry to disturb you," he said, "but there's something I need to tell you about tomorrow's session with Midnight." Dr. Thompson stepped into the cabin, his expression grave. Lily instinctively backed away, her body tensing as it always did when an adult male entered her personal space. "I apologize for the late visit," he said, remaining by the door to give her distance. "But I wanted to prepare you for tomorrow. The Bureau of Land Management officials are coming to evaluate our program, specifically our work with the wild mustangs." "What does that have to do with me?" Lily asked, crossing her arms defensively. "Midnight's future is uncertain. The BLM considers him too aggressive for rehabilitation. If he doesn't show progress soon, they may decide he can't remain in the program. What happens then?" Lily felt a strange tightness in her chest at the question. Dr. Thompson's hesitation told her everything. "They'll remove him from the ranch." "You mean they'll put him down?" Lily translated flatly. "It's a possibility we're trying to prevent," he admitted, "which is why tomorrow's session is particularly important. Any connection you can establish with him would help demonstrate his capacity for rehabilitation." Lily turned back to the window, hiding the unexpected surge of emotion his words provoked. "So that's why you paired me with him. You're using me to save your wild horse." "No, Lily. I paired you with Midnight because I believed you could understand each other." He paused. "But yes, I hope that understanding might help save you both." After Dr. Thompson left, Lily couldn't sleep. She paced her small cabin, thoughts racing. Why should she care about some wild horse's fate? She had enough problems of her own without taking on responsibility for Midnight's survival. Yet she couldn't shake the memory of those dark eyes, the recognition she'd felt in that moment of connection. It was as if Midnight had seen through all her defenses to the wounded child beneath, the little girl who still flinched at raised voices, who slept with the lights on to keep the nightmares at bay. Morning arrived with a knot of anxiety in Lily's stomach. At breakfast, she picked at her food, too distracted to eat. "You okay?" Emma asked, sliding into the seat beside her. You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Lily replied automatically, the response she'd perfected over years of deflecting concern. Emma wasn't fooled. "It's Midnight, isn't it? Marcus told me the BLM people are coming today." Lily looked up sharply. "Does everyone know everything around here?" "Pretty much," Emma shrugged. "Small community. Plus, I've been where you are." "My horse, Spirit, was considered unadoptable when I first came. Everyone said we were a lost cause. the anorexic girl and the starved mare. For the first time, Lily really looked at Emma. Not just her bright red hair and freckles, but the hard-won wisdom in her green eyes, the subtle signs of a girl who had fought her own battles. "What happened?" Lily asked despite herself. Emma smiled, rolling up her sleeve to reveal a small tattoo of a horse on her wrist. "We saved each other. Spirit's officially mine now. My parents are bringing her home when I finish the program next month." Before Lily could respond, Sarah appeared at their table. "Lily, the BLM officials want to observe your session with Midnight first. You should head to the corral now." The walk to the equine area felt like a march to execution. 3 stern-faced officials in government uniforms stood conversing with Marcus and Dr. Thompson. They fell silent as Lily approached, eyeing her with clinical assessment. "This is Lily Anderson," Dr. Thompson introduced her. "She's been working with Midnight." "For 1 day," clarified a woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Her nameplate read, "Director Harriet Collins." "I understand yesterday was your first session." Lily nodded, uncomfortable under the woman's scrutiny. "And you have no prior experience with horses?" Director Collins continued skeptically. "No." The woman made a note on her clipboard. "Well, don't expect miracles. This animal has rejected every handling attempt for weeks. We're simply documenting the process before making our final recommendation." Marcus handed Lily the lead rope, his expression encouraging. "Just like yesterday. No pressure. Just be with him." But there was pressure, immense pressure, in the eyes of the officials, in Dr. Thompson's barely concealed concern, in the knowledge that Midnight's life might depend on what happened in the next 30 minutes. As Lily entered the enclosure, Midnight stood alert in his corner, more agitated than the day before. The presence of strangers clearly distressed him. "He knows something's wrong," Lily murmured, making her way cautiously to the stool. She sat, trying to ignore the audience at the fence, focusing instead on the horse. "Hey," she said softly, "it's just me again. Those people out there, they don't matter." Midnight pawed nervously at the ground, his dark eyes darting between Lily and the officials. "I know what it's like," she continued quietly, "having strangers decide your fate, being passed around like you don't matter, never knowing where you'll end up next." She reached into her pocket and pulled out an apple she'd taken from breakfast. "I brought you something. Not because I expect anything back, just because." She placed the apple on the ground between them, then returned to her seat. Midnight's nostrils flared at the scent, but he remained rooted in place. "I had a foster home when I was 12, Lily found herself saying, her voice barely audible. "The Sullivan family, they were nice, normal. They had this big backyard with a swing set, even though their own kids were grown. Mrs. Sullivan baked cookies every Sunday." Midnight took a tentative step forward, then another. "I started to believe I could stay there. Started to let my guard down. Then one night, I had a nightmare. Screamed the house awake. Mr. Sullivan came running into my room." Her voice caught. "I was still half asleep, trapped in the nightmare. When he touched my shoulder, I panicked. Punched him right in the face." Midnight was listening, his ears forward, several steps closer now. "They sent me back the next day, said I was too troubled. That was the last time I let myself hope." A tear slid down her cheek, the first she'd shed in years. "That's the thing about hope, it just sets you up for more pain." To her astonishment, Midnight crossed the remaining distance between them. Gently, carefully, he lowered his head and took the apple from the ground. As he chewed, he remained close, his large body just inches from her stool. From the fence came murmurs of surprise. Director Collins was scribbling furiously on her clipboard. Emboldened, Lily slowly raised her hand, palm up, offering it to the horse. Midnight regarded it warily, then, in a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, lowered his muzzle to her palm. His breath was warm against her skin, his whiskers tickling her fingers. "We're not so different, you and me," Lily whispered, tears flowing freely now. "Both of us just trying to survive a world that doesn't seem to want us." Midnight's response was to press his forehead gently against her shoulder, a gesture so tender, so trusting, that it broke something open inside Lily's chest. A sob escaped her, then another, years of pent-up grief pouring out as she leaned into the solid warmth of the horse who had somehow recognized the truth of her wounded soul. For several minutes, they remained that way, the broken girl and the wild horse, finding in each other a solace neither had known before. When Lily finally looked up, wiping her tears, she saw Dr. Thompson watching with a quiet smile, while Director Collins spoke animatedly into her phone, her earlier skepticism replaced by something like wonder. Emma was right, Lily realized with sudden clarity. Sometimes the most damaged souls were exactly what each other needed to heal. The following days brought a subtle but unmistakable shift in the rhythm of Lily's life at Sunrise Ranch. After witnessing her breakthrough with Midnight, Director Collins had granted a 30-day extension for the Mustang's rehabilitation program. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was time, precious time that Lily intended to use fully. Her sessions with Midnight became the center of her days, moments of connection that anchored her amid the still, uncomfortable routine of group therapy and communal meals. Each afternoon, she would enter his enclosure and sit on her stool, sometimes talking softly about her day, other times simply existing in companionable silence. Midnight no longer retreated to the corner when she arrived. Instead, he would approach with cautious dignity, accepting the apples or carrots she brought, allowing her to stroke his muscular neck or brush his midnight coat. "No, his physical condition is improving," Marcus observed during their third week of sessions. "He's put on weight, and those sores along his flanks are healing nicely." "It's not just physical," Dr. Thompson added, watching from a respectful distance as Lily ran a currycomb through Midnight's mane. "Look at his eyes. The wildness is still there, but the fear is diminishing. He's learning to trust again." "So is she," Marcus replied quietly. Indeed, subtle changes were emerging in Lily as well. She still kept to herself during most group activities, but occasionally Emma would coax a reluctant smile or even a brief laugh from her. At meals, she had begun to contribute to conversations, offering short but genuine responses when asked direct questions. In her individual therapy sessions with Dr. Thompson, she remained guarded about her past but had started to engage with the present, discussing her progress with Midnight, her observations about the ranch, even her tentative thoughts about the future. "I've been thinking," she said one afternoon as she and Emma mucked out stalls together. "After the 30 days are up, what happens to Midnight?" Emma paused, leaning on her pitchfork. "Depends. If the BLM determines he's rehabilitated enough, he could stay here as part of the therapy program. Or he might be put up for adoption." Adoption. The word made Lily's stomach clench. The thought of Midnight going to strangers, perhaps people who wouldn't understand his history or his needs, was unexpectedly painful. "Yeah, but it's not easy to adopt a former wild Mustang," Emma continued. "There are lots of requirements, experience with horses, proper facilities. Most people want easy horses, not ones with baggage." "Like foster kids," Lily thought but didn't say. Later that evening, she found Dr. Thompson in his office, working on paperwork. She hovered in the doorway, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Lily," he said, looking up with surprise. "Everything okay?" "I want to learn more," she blurted out, about horses, about how to help Midnight, not just sitting with him, but really helping him adjust. Dr. Thompson smiled, setting his pen down. I think that can be arranged. Marcus would be thrilled to have you as a more formal assistant. And after the 30 days, she began, then faltered. You're worried about what happens next, he finished for her, with Midnight. She nodded, embarrassed by the intensity of her concern. Lily, I want you to understand something important. The connection you've formed with Midnight, it's exceptional. In my 20 years running this program, I've rarely seen anything like it. He leaned forward. Whatever happens after the 30 days, that connection doesn't disappear. It becomes part of both of you, a foundation for healing that continues, regardless of physical proximity. His words were clearly meant to be comforting, but they left Lily cold. She'd heard similar platitudes before, from social workers explaining why she had to leave yet another home, another school, another brief glimpse of stability. The next day, Marcus began teaching Lily more formalized horsemanship skills, how to approach correctly, how to lead, how to interpret equine body language. Midnight tolerated these new interactions with surprising patience, though he still startled easily at sudden movements or loud noises. He's testing boundaries, Marcus explained, after Midnight pulled away sharply during an attempt to check his hooves. It's actually a good sign. He's engaged enough to have opinions about what happens to him, not just shutting down or reacting with fear. As they worked, Lily noticed a black SUV pulling up to the main building. Two men in suits emerged, joining Dr. Thompson on the porch for what appeared to be a serious conversation. Who are they? She asked Marcus. He glanced over, his expression darkening slightly. BLM higher-ups, looks like. Probably checking on Midnight's progress before the 30-day review. That evening at dinner, Dr. Thompson's usual calm demeanor seemed strained. He made announcements about the next day's schedule with forced cheerfulness, avoiding Lily's questioning gaze. After the meal, she deliberately lingered, helping clear dishes until they were alone in the dining area. What did those men want today? She asked directly. The ones in suits. Dr. Thompson sighed, setting down the stack of plates he was carrying. They were from the BLM's Wild Horse and Burro Program Administrative Office. There's been a complication. What kind of complication? Lily felt her chest tighten. A wealthy rancher has filed a formal complaint about our rehabilitation program. Jackson Mercer. He owns several thousand acres bordering public lands where Midnight's herd was captured. He's been pushing for years to have the wild Mustang population reduced, claiming they compete with his cattle for grazing land. What does that have to do with Midnight specifically? Mercer has political connections. He's demanding a review of all Mustang rehabilitation programs, starting with ours. He's challenging Director Collins' decision to grant the extension. Lily's hands curled into fists at her sides. And so they're just going to take him after all the progress he's made. Nothing's decided yet, Dr. Thompson assured her. But I wanted you to be prepared. Mercer is coming tomorrow to observe a session personally. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She paced her cabin, rage and fear battling inside her. The familiar feeling of powerlessness threatened to overwhelm her, the same helplessness she'd felt as a child when adults made life-altering decisions about her fate without her input or consent. Around midnight, she slipped out of her cabin. The ranch was quiet, most buildings dark except for security lights. She made her way to Midnight's enclosure, drawn by an impulse she couldn't quite name. The Mustang was awake, his dark form visible against the moonlit desert beyond. He nickered softly at her approach, moving to the fence. "Hey," she whispered, reaching through the slats to stroke his nose. I couldn't sleep either. Midnight pressed his head against her hand, his breath warm in the cool night air. Some rich guy thinks he gets to decide what happens to you, she told him bitterly. I'm some stranger who's never even met you, who doesn't know what you've been through or how hard you're trying. The horse listened, dark eyes reflecting the stars above. I won't let them take you, she promised, surprising herself with the fierceness of her resolve. I don't know how yet, but I'll find a way. A sound behind her made Lily spin around, heart racing. Emma stood a few yards away, wrapped in a blanket against the night chill. I couldn't sleep either, huh? Emma asked, approaching cautiously. What are you doing out here? Lily demanded. Same as you, probably, Emma shrugged. Sometimes talking to spirit helps when my brain won't shut up. She nodded toward Midnight. He's really bonded with you. Lily turned back to the horse, who remained close despite the arrival of another person, something that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. Doctor. Thompson told me about Mercer coming tomorrow, Emma continued. That guy's bad news. My dad's a wildlife biologist. He's been fighting Mercer's anti-Mustang campaigns for years. How can he just override everything? All the progress Midnight's made. Money talks, Emma said grimly. But Mercer's not the only one with connections. My dad knows people at the Wild Horse Preservation Coalition. I could call him, see if they can help. Lily looked at Emma with new eyes, seeing for the first time a potential ally rather than just another broken teenager. You'd do that? Of course. That's what friends do. Emma said it so simply, as if friendship were the most natural thing in the world, as if Lily hadn't spent years pushing away anyone who tried to get close. Friend. The word echoed in Lily's mind as she returned to her cabin an hour later, after Emma had shown her a hidden path to the staff office where they could use the phone tomorrow. She rolled the concept around in her thoughts, examining it from different angles like an unfamiliar object. As she finally drifted towards sleep, Lily realized that somewhere in the past few weeks, something fundamental had shifted. In coming to Midnight's defense, in accepting Emma's help, she had taken the first tentative steps toward reconnecting not just with a horse, but with the human world she had long ago rejected as too painful, too dangerous to navigate. Jackson Mercer arrived at Sunrise Ranch in a gleaming black Range Rover that sent plumes of dust rising into the clear morning air. Lily watched from the dining hall window as a tall man in expensive-looking jeans, polished boots, and a cream-colored Stetson emerged. Even from a distance, his posture radiated entitlement and impatience. That's him, Emma whispered beside her. My dad calls him the Mustang Killer. His ranch has expanded onto traditional Mustang territories for years. Did you reach your dad? Lily asked, not taking her eyes off Mercer as he greeted Dr. Thompson with a handshake that looked more like a power play than a courtesy. Yeah, he's contacting the coalition right now, but he said it might take time to mobilize any meaningful response. Time was exactly what they didn't have. Lily's session with Midnight was scheduled for 1 p.m., just 4 hours away. After breakfast, she slipped away to the stables, finding Marcus preparing feed buckets. I need your help, she said without preamble. Marcus looked up, surprised by her directness. With Midnight? Yes, Lily took a deep breath. I want to try something new in today's session, something that will show Mercer how much progress Midnight has made. What did you have in mind? I want to try leading him outside his enclosure, not far, just around the larger corral. Marcus set down the feed scoop, giving her his full attention. That's a big step, Lily. Midnight hasn't been outside that enclosure since he arrived. I know, but he trusts me now, at least more than he did. And if he panics, gets away from you, with Mercer watching, any setback could be used against the program. Lily hadn't considered this angle. The thought of potentially harming Midnight's chances made her hesitate. Marcus studied her face. "But you really care about him, don't you? He's the only one who understands," Lily said quietly, without judging or trying to fix me. "Horses are good that way," Marcus agreed. "But caring about someone or something means sometimes putting their needs before your own. Are you sure this isn't more about proving something to Mercer than what's best for Midnight right now?" His gentle question hit home. Lily looked down, confronting her own motivations honestly for perhaps the first time in years. "Maybe you're right," she admitted. "I just feel so helpless, like everything is being decided by people who don't even know him." "I understand that feeling. Believe me, I do." Marcus hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Tell you what, let's practice this morning before Mercer arrives. If Midnight responds well, we can try it during your session. If not, we stick with what's been working." For the next 2 hours, they worked together in Midnight's enclosure. First, Marcus demonstrated how to properly attach a lead rope to Midnight's halter, how to stand, how to apply gentle pressure and release it when the horse responded correctly. Midnight was tense but cooperative, seeming to sense the unusual seriousness of the morning's activities. "The key is confidence," Marcus explained. "If you're nervous, he'll be nervous. If you believe he can do this, he's more likely to believe it too." By noon, they had successfully led Midnight in circles around his enclosure. Each time they approached the gate, however, his anxiety visibly increased. Head raising, nostrils flaring, muscles tensing beneath his dark coat. "I think that's enough for now," Marcus said finally. "He's making progress, but the gate is still triggering a fear response. Probably reminds him of being captured, of the trailer that brought him here." Lily nodded, disappointed but understanding. "So we stick with the regular session. For today, yes. But Lily, what you've accomplished in this short time is remarkable. Focus on that connection when Mercer is watching. That's what will make the difference." At 12:30, Emma found Lily sitting alone on the steps of her cabin, lost in thought. "Everyone's gathering at the corral," Emma reported. "Mercer's been touring the facility with Dr. Thompson. He's..." "Not impressed? What do you mean?" "I overheard him saying our program is sentimental nonsense, and that wild Mustangs can't be truly domesticated, that they're better off being processed for commercial purposes." "Processed?" Lily felt sick. "You mean slaughtered?" Emma nodded grimly. "My dad says Mercer has investments in foreign companies that buy horse meat. He pretends it's about land management, but it's really about profit." The revelation ignited something fierce in Lily's chest. She stood up, suddenly certain of what she needed to do. "Come on. There's something I want to try before the session starts." They hurried to the small staff office where Emma had called her father the night before. Lily grabbed the phone and dialed the number for Child Protective Services that she'd memorized years ago, a lifeline she'd never actually used, too afraid of the consequences. "Marion County CPS. How may I direct your call?" "I need to speak to Grace Winters," Lily said. "It's urgent." After a moment, a familiar voice came on the line. Grace Winters speaking. "Mr. Winters, this is Lily Anderson." "Lily?" The social worker sounded shocked. "Are you all right? Has something happened at the ranch?" "I'm fine, but I need a favor. It's important." 15 minutes later, Lily walked toward the corral area where a small crowd had gathered. Dr. Thompson stood with Marcus, Director Collins, and 2 other BLM officials. Slightly apart, Jackson Mercer leaned against the fence, checking his expensive watch with obvious impatience. Lily approached Dr. Thompson first. Before we start, there's someone on the phone who needs to speak with you and Director Collins. It's about Midnight's case." Dr. Thompson looked confused, but followed Lily to the office, along with Director Collins. When they returned 10 minutes later, both wore expressions of cautious optimism. "Mr. Mercer," Dr. Thompson said, "there's been a development. The Wild Horse Preservation Coalition has filed an emergency injunction regarding Midnight's case. They're challenging your complaint on procedural grounds." Mercer's face darkened. "That's ridiculous. I have every right to question the allocation of federal resources for these worthless animals." Additionally, Director Collins added, reading from notes she'd taken during the call, "Ms. Grace Winters from Child Protective Services has officially registered a therapeutic dependency claim, stating that removing Midnight at this time would cause significant psychological harm to a minor under state protection." Lily held her breath, hardly believing her impulsive plan had worked. She'd gambled that Grace Winters, the one social worker who had always seemed to genuinely care about her welfare, despite Lily's constant rejection, would remember her and be willing to help. "This is absurd," Mercer sputtered. "Some troubled teen's attachment to a wild horse doesn't override federal land management priorities." "Actually, sir," Director Collins said coolly, "in cases where therapeutic animal relationships are formally documented by licensed professionals, there are specific provisions in the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act that allow for prioritized rehabilitation consideration." The technical language went over Lily's head, but the effect on Mercer was clear. His face flushed with anger as he realized his easy victory was slipping away. "This isn't over," he warned, pointing a finger at Dr. Thompson. "My attorneys will review this so-called injunction." "Of course," Dr. Thompson replied calmly. "In the meantime, shall we proceed with observing today's session? Since you've come all this way." Mercer looked like he wanted to refuse, but with the BLM officials watching, he gave a curt nod and turned toward the corral. As Lily prepared to enter Midnight's enclosure, she felt a strange calm replace her earlier anxiety. Whatever happened next, she had fought for Midnight in a way she'd never fought for herself, had reached out, asked for help, refused to accept that his fate was sealed. The realization filled her with a quiet strength she hadn't known she possessed. Midnight greeted her with a soft nicker, approaching without hesitation. As she stroked his neck, she whispered, "We bought some time. And I promise I'll keep fighting for you." For the next 30 minutes, Lily demonstrated all they had accomplished together, how Midnight now allowed grooming, how he responded to basic voice commands, how the fearful, aggressive stallion had transformed into a still proud but increasingly trusting companion. Throughout the demonstration, she was acutely aware of Mercer's cold stare, of his dismissive body language. But she was equally aware of the BLM officials' growing interest, of Director Collins' approving nods, of Dr. Thompson's quiet pride. When the session ended, Lily gave Midnight a final pat and turned to face the observers. "He deserves a chance," she said directly to Mercer, surprising everyone, including herself, by speaking up. "All he needs is time and patience." Mercer snorted derisively. "What this animal needs is a reality check. Wild is wild. Some things can't be domesticated no matter how much time you waste trying." Something in his tone, the same dismissive judgment she'd heard from countless adults evaluating her own worth, her own potential for rehabilitation, sparked a courage Lily didn't know she had. "You're wrong," she said, her voice stronger now. "Midnight isn't wild because he was born that way. He's defensive because he was hurt. There's a difference." She met Mercer's gaze directly, no longer the silent, withdrawn girl who had arrived at Sunrise Ranch a month earlier. And if you'd bothered to actually watch what happened here today, you'd see that healing is possible, even for those that everyone else has given up on. A heavy silence followed her words. Then, unexpectedly, Director Collins began to applaud, followed by Marcus, then Doctor Thompson, then the other officials. Even Emma, watching from a distance, joined in. Mercer's face tightened with suppressed fury. Without another word, he turned and stalked toward his Range Rover. As he drove away in a cloud of dust, Director Collins approached Lily with an extended hand. That was quite a speech, young lady, and quite a demonstration of progress with Midnight. I think we may need to revisit our initial 30-day timeline. Perhaps a more permanent arrangement can be considered. The implication of her words washed over Lily like a wave. Midnight might be able to stay. And more than that, Lily had stood up, had spoken out, had made herself heard in a way she'd never dared before. Later, as she walked back to her cabin with Emma, Lily realized she was smiling, actually smiling, for the first time in longer than she could remember. "You were amazing," Emma said. "Ah, the look on Mercer's face when you stood up to him. I was terrified," Lily admitted, "but I kept thinking about all the times I just sat quiet while adults decided my future, all the times I let them label me as broken or troubled without fighting back." Emma bumped her shoulder companionably. "Well, you definitely found your voice today, and not just for Midnight." As they reached Lily's cabin, Emma hesitated. "Hey, my parents are visiting this weekend. I told them about you and Midnight. They want to meet you, if that's okay." A month ago, Lily would have immediately refused, retreating from the implied intimacy of such an invitation. But now, she found herself nodding. Yeah, that would be nice. That night, for the first time since arriving at Sunrise Ranch, Lily slept soundly, without nightmares, without the light on. And when she dreamed, it was of running free across open desert, Midnight carrying her toward distant mountains where the future, while still uncertain, no longer seemed quite so bleak. The weekend arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of sage across the ranch. Lily stood before the small mirror in her cabin, scrutinizing her reflection with unusual care. She'd borrowed a blue blouse from Emma. "It brings out your eyes," Emma had insisted, and had even allowed Sarah to trim her long, dark hair, which now fell in neater waves around her face. "They're just my parents," Emma said, lounging on Lily's bed. "Not the royal family." "I know," Lily replied, tugging nervously at the blouse. "It's just, I'm not good with parents. They always look at me like I'm some kind of science experiment." "Mine won't," Emma promised. "They're weird, but in a good way. My dad will probably just ask you a million questions about Midnight's behavioral patterns because he's obsessed with wild horse sociology." Despite Emma's reassurances, Lily felt her anxiety mounting as they walked toward the main building where visitors met with residents. She'd avoided parent visitation days for the past month, claiming illness or scheduling conflicts with Midnight's care. But after Emma's help with the Mercer situation, refusing her invitation had seemed impossible. Dr. Thompson intercepted them just outside the visitors' area. "Lily, could I speak with you for a moment?" Emma looked between them. "I'll tell my parents you'll be right there," she said, continuing inside. "Doctor." Thompson led Lily to a nearby bench. "I received a call from your caseworker this morning, Grace Winters." Lily tensed. "Is something wrong?" "Not wrong, exactly. But there's been a development." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Your time here at Sunrise Ranch was scheduled for 6 months, with a reassessment at the halfway point." "That's next week," Lily realized, her stomach tightening. "Yes, Ms." Winters informed me that a family has expressed interest in fostering you. The Carters. They live in Albuquerque, about 3 hours from here. The news hit Lily like a physical blow. Another placement, another family, another fresh start that would inevitably sour. When? She managed to ask. Nothing's decided yet. Miss Winters wanted me to discuss it with you first, given your progress here. The Carters are willing to wait until your full 6 months are completed, but they're also open to transitioning you earlier if that seems appropriate. Lily's mind raced. 3 hours away from midnight. From Emma. From the first place where she'd begun to feel something like belonging. What about midnight? She asked, her voice small. Dr. Thompson's expression softened. Your work with him has been remarkable, Lily. But ultimately, this program is designed as a transition for both the horses and the teens who work with them. The goal is healing that extends beyond these boundaries. So I'm just supposed to leave him, after everything. We could arrange visits. The Carters seem very supportive of continuing therapeutic activities that benefit you. Visits. As if Midnight were just some therapy tool, not the first living being she truly connected with in years. I need to think about it, Lily said, standing abruptly. Of course, and Lily, this is good news. The Carters specifically requested you after reading your file. They understand your history and still want to welcome you into their home. This is something significant. But all Lily could hear was the familiar refrain that had followed her through 7 foster homes. We thought we could help her. We didn't realize how troubled she was. We're not equipped to handle her issues. Different families, same outcome. She entered the visitors' area with her emotions in turmoil, spotting Emma with a couple who could only be her parents. The same vibrant red hair, the same open, expressive faces. There she is, Emma exclaimed. Mom, Dad, this is Lily. The horse whisperer herself, Emma's father said warmly, extending his hand. Emma's told us so much about you and Midnight. I'm David, and this is my wife, Jennifer. Nice to meet you, Lily managed, shaking their hands mechanically. For the next hour, she went through the motions of conversation, responding when spoken to, smiling when appropriate, all while her mind churned with the news Dr. Thompson had delivered. The Carters, Albuquerque, leaving Sunrise Ranch. Lily. Jennifer's voice broke through her thoughts. Emma mentioned you might be interested in wildlife biology. David was just offering to show you some of his research next time you're on a weekend pass. Oh, I don't, Lily began, then faltered. Would there even be a next time? Would she be shuffled off to the Carters before she had a chance to say proper goodbyes? Everything okay? Emma asked, studying her face with concern. Fine, Lily said automatically, just thinking about Midnight. I should probably check on him soon. We'd love to meet him, David said eagerly. Emma says he's a remarkable specimen of Mustang resilience. Dad, you're doing the weird horse science thing again, Emma groaned. Despite her inner turmoil, Lily found herself warming to Emma's parents. They were genuinely interested in her work with Midnight, asking thoughtful questions without the condescending tone adults often used with her. David shared stories from his fieldwork studying wild horse herds, while Jennifer, a high school art teacher, talked about therapeutic art programs she'd developed for at-risk youth. By the time they walked together to Midnight's enclosure, Lily had almost forgotten her earlier distress, watching Emma's easy rapport with her parents, the inside jokes, the affectionate teasing, the obvious love between them, awakened a wistful ache in her chest. Midnight approached the fence as they arrived, nickering softly in greeting. Lily felt a surge of pride as he allowed Emma's parents to observe him up close without showing signs of distress. His transformation is incredible, David marveled. The fact that he lets strangers approach with you present shows extraordinary trust. Lily's been amazing with him, Emma said. You should see them during their sessions. Jennifer studied Lily with perceptive eyes. You two have a special bond. It's beautiful to witness. As Emma's parents prepared to leave, Jennifer surprised Lily with a gentle hug. We'd love to have you visit sometime. Our home is always open. The simple kindness nearly undid her. Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. After they'd gone, Emma turned to her. Well, you got weird when you talked to Dr. Thompson. What happened? Lily hesitated, then told her about the Carters and the potential placement. But that's 3 hours away, Emma protested. What about midnight? What about... She stopped herself. But Lily heard the unspoken words. What about us? Our friendship? I don't have a choice, Lily said, the familiar bitterness seeping back into her voice. I never do. Maybe not before, Emma said thoughtfully. But things are different now. You stood up to Mercer. You saved Midnight. Maybe it's time to fight for what you want for yourself, too. As the sun began to set over the desert, casting long shadows across the ranch, Lily stood with her hand on Midnight's neck, absorbing the warmth of his presence, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Emma's words echoed in her mind. Fight for what you want for yourself, too. But what did she want? After years of carefully wanting nothing, of protecting herself from disappointment by refusing to hope, of pushing away connection to avoid the inevitable pain of separation, what did Lily Anderson truly want for her future? As if sensing her turmoil, Midnight nudged her gently with his muzzle. Lily pressed her forehead against his, closing her eyes. In that moment of silent communion, the answer came to her with startling clarity. She wanted to stay here, with Midnight, with Emma, with the fragile new connections she'd begun to form. For the first time in her fractured life, Lily wanted to belong somewhere, and she was terrified of losing it just when she'd found the courage to admit it. Grace Winters hadn't changed much in the 3 years since Lily had last seen her. The social worker still wore her salt and pepper hair in a practical bob, still carried the same worn leather briefcase, still had that look of determined optimism that had always irritated Lily, until now, when she found herself desperately hoping that optimism might work in her favor. They sat in Dr. Thompson's office, sun streaming through the window, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air between them. Dr. Thompson had stepped out to give them privacy, though Lily suspected he was hovering nearby. You look well, Lily, Grace said, her eyes taking in the subtle changes. The healthier color in Lily's cheeks, the steadier gaze, the absence of the hunched, defensive posture that had characterized their previous interactions. This place seems to agree with you. It does, Lily admitted. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Grace nodded, opening a folder on her lap. Before we discuss the Carters, I want you to know I was quite impressed by how you handled the situation with Midnight. Reaching out, advocating for something you believed in, that shows real growth. Thanks for helping, Lily said, with the therapeutic dependency claim. Happy to. Though I suspect the legal maneuvers bought time, but won't resolve the underlying issue permanently. That's what I want to discuss. Lily took a deep breath, steadying herself. I don't want to go to the Carters. Grace's expression remained neutral, though Lily detected a hint of disappointment. They're good people. Lily, experienced foster parents with an excellent track record working with teens who've experienced trauma. They specifically requested you after reading about your progress here. I'm sure they're great, Lily said quickly. It's not about them, it's about... She hesitated, struggling to articulate feelings she was only beginning to understand herself. I need to stay here, at least until Midnight's situation is resolved. He needs me." "And after that?" Grace asked gently. The question caught Lily off guard. What do you mean?" "Wild horses, once rehabilitated, typically move on to permanent sanctuaries, to adoption by qualified homes, occasionally back to designated wild areas if they're deemed capable of reintegration. What happens when Midnight's journey takes him somewhere new?" Lily hadn't allowed herself to think that far ahead. The idea of Midnight leaving, of their paths diverging, created a hollow feeling in her chest. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'm not ready to be separated from him yet. Please, Miss Winters, just a little more time." Grace studied her thoughtfully. "You know, in all the years I've worked with you, I don't think you've ever directly asked me for anything before. You've either silently accepted whatever was decided for you or actively sabotaged it, but never advocated for what you wanted." Lily looked down at her hands, recognizing the truth in Grace's observation. "Let me ask you something," Grace continued. "If the situation with Midnight weren't a factor, how would you feel about completing your time here at Sunrise Ranch? About the program itself?" "It's helping," Lily said slowly. "The equine therapy, the structure, even some of the group sessions. For the first time, I feel like I'm making progress instead of just going through the motions. And there's Emma and Marcus and Dr. Thompson." Grace smiled. "Connections, real ones. That's significant, Lily. So can I stay, at least until my 6 months are up. Let me speak with Dr. Thompson about your progress, and with the Carters about their timeline. It might be possible to arrange a phased transition. You complete your program here, then move to the Carters, with regular visits back to the ranch to maintain your work with Midnight." It wasn't everything Lily had hoped for, but it was something. A compromise that acknowledged her needs and feelings rather than simply dictating her fate. She nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering anxiety. "Thank you." After Grace left, promising to be in touch within the week, Lily headed straight to Midnight's enclosure. The afternoon session wasn't scheduled for another hour, but she needed the comfort of his presence, the uncomplicated connection that had become her anchor. As she approached, however, she noticed something was wrong. Midnight was pacing agitatedly, tossing his head, his usual calm demeanor replaced by visible distress. Marcus stood outside the fence, observing with concern. "What happened?" Lily asked, hurrying to join him. "Not sure," Marcus replied. "He was fine earlier, but about 20 minutes ago, he started getting worked up. I was about to come find you." Lily scanned the enclosure, looking for anything out of place. Was anyone else around? Any unusual noises or disturbances? Just the usual ranch activity. Oh, and some BLM officials stopped by briefly to check on the rehabilitation program. Standard follow-up after the Mercer complaint. Something clicked in Lily's mind. BLM. Was one of them wearing a grey Stetson? Tall guy with a mustache. Marcus thought for a moment. "Yes, actually. How did you know?" "He was one of the men who captured Midnight's herd. I saw his photo in the case file, Dr. Thompson showed me." Lily felt a surge of protective anger. No wonder Midnight's upset. He recognized him. Without waiting for Marcus's response, Lily entered the enclosure. Midnight continued pacing, his eyes wild, nostrils flared. This was the most agitated she'd seen him since her first days at the ranch. "Hey," she called softly. "It's just me." Midnight's head snapped toward her, but there was no recognition in his gaze, only fear, only the instinctive defensive response of a wild animal cornered. He reared suddenly, front hooves pawing the air, a warning clear in the gesture. "Lily, be careful," Marcus called from the fence. "Maybe we should give him some time to calm down." But Lily stood her ground, intuitively understanding that retreating now would undo weeks of careful trust-building. Instead, she began to talk, her voice low and steady. "I know you're scared. I know seeing that man brought it all back, the helicopters, the pens, being separated from your herd. I understand what it's like when the past comes crashing back like that." Midnight's pacing slowed, though he still kept his distance, eyes darting nervously between Lily and the ranch beyond. "I had a meeting today too," she continued, "about my future, about where I'm going to live next. It's scary, not knowing, not having control." She took a careful step forward. "But I'm trying something new. I'm asking for what I need instead of just accepting whatever happens or running away. I'm trying to believe that maybe, just maybe, what I want matters." Another step. Midnight stood still now, watching her, his breathing still rapid, but less panicked. "You and me, we're not so different, both caught between worlds, not quite wild anymore, but not quite tame either. Both learning to trust again, even though it's the hardest thing in the world." She extended her hand, palm up, an offering, not a demand. For a long moment, Midnight remained frozen, the trauma of his past visibly warring with the tentative trust they'd built. Then, with deliberate care, he lowered his proud head and pressed his muzzle into her palm. Relief flooded through Lily. "That's it," she whispered. "We're okay. We're going to be okay." For the next hour, she simply sat with him, sometimes talking softly, sometimes in companionable silence, until his agitation had fully subsided, and he was once again the calmer, more trusting horse she'd come to know. When she finally left the enclosure, she found not just Marcus waiting, but Dr. Thompson as well. "That was remarkable," Dr. Thompson said. "And most experienced handlers would have retreated when confronted with that level of agitation, but you knew exactly what he needed." "I just understood," Lily said simply. "Ms. Winters and I had a productive conversation," he continued. "She shared your concerns about transitioning away from Midnight." Lily tensed, bracing for the worst. "I proposed an alternative that she's taking to the Carters. Instead of a traditional foster placement, we'd classify you as part of our extended rehabilitation program. You'd live with the Carters, but return to the ranch 3 days a week to continue your work with Midnight and participate in select therapeutic activities." Hope flickered in Lily's chest. They'd be okay with that. Based on my discussion with Ms. Winters, I believe they would. They seem genuinely committed to supporting your healing journey, not just providing a place to live. And Midnight, what happens to him long term? Dr. Thompson's expression grew more serious. "That's still being determined. Director Collins has extended his rehabilitation period indefinitely, but eventually decisions will need to be made about his permanent placement." "He can't go back to the wild," Lily said. "Not after all this." "He wouldn't survive." "No," Dr. Thompson agreed, "but there are other options we can explore." That evening, during the community dinner, Lily found herself participating more actively than ever before, asking Jason about his music, complimenting Sarah on the meal, even sharing a brief account of her dramatic afternoon with Midnight when the group expressed interest. "You should have seen her," Marcus told the assembled teens and staff. Midnight was having a full-blown panic attack, and Lily just walked right in and talked him down like she was having a casual conversation with an old friend. "That's because she speaks horse better than human," Emma teased, but her eyes shone with genuine admiration. Later, as Lily and Emma walked back to their cabins under a canopy of stars, Emma broached the subject Lily had been avoiding. "So, did you find out about the Carters?" Are you leaving us? Not exactly, Lily said, explaining the compromise Dr. Thompson had proposed. It's not perfect, but it's better than I expected. At least I'll still get to see Midnight regularly. And you too, I guess, she added with a small smile. Emma laughed. Wow, try to contain your enthusiasm about our friendship. Sorry, I'm still new at this. Having friends, caring about people, all that normal human stuff. You're doing fine, Emma assured her. Better than fine. You know, when you first got here, I bet Jason $20 you wouldn't say more than 100 words your entire stay. I lost that bet weeks ago. They reached Lily's cabin first. Before going inside, Lily turned to Emma with uncharacteristic seriousness. Thank you for not giving up on me when I was doing everything possible to push you away. That's what friends do, Emma said simply. They see past the walls to the person hiding behind them. That night, Lily sat at her small desk and did something she'd never done before. She wrote a letter to the Carters. Not because anyone had asked her to, but because she wanted them to understand who she was, what she'd been through, and what she needed if they were to become part of her journey. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Carter, she began, the pen feeling awkward in her hand. My name is Lily Anderson. I understand you've read my file, but files don't tell the whole story. She wrote late into the night about her childhood, about the foster homes, about the walls she'd built and was now cautiously dismantling, about Midnight and what their connection had taught her about trust and healing, about her hopes and fears for the future. When she finally signed her name at the bottom of the third page, Lily felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in her life, she wasn't simply accepting whatever fate others decided for her. She was participating in shaping her own future, making her voice heard, daring to believe that what she wanted, what she needed, mattered. It was terrifying, it was exhilarating. And as she sealed the letter in an envelope to give to Dr. Thompson in the morning, Lily realized it was also, perhaps, the most important step in her healing journey so far. 2 weeks passed with no word from Grace Winters or the Carters. Lily tried not to let the silence erode her newfound hope, focusing instead on her daily sessions with Midnight, her schoolwork, and the increasingly comfortable routine of ranch life. The nightmares that had plagued her for years now came less frequently. When they did, she found herself better able to ground herself in the present rather than being swept away by the tidal wave of past traumas. You seem different, Dr. Thompson observed during their individual therapy session. More present. Lily nodded, surprising herself by maintaining eye contact instead of looking away, as she typically did when receiving positive feedback. I feel different, less fragmented. That's an interesting choice of words. Can you say more about that? Before, it was like parts of me were scattered everywhere. The angry part, the scared part, the part that wanted to trust but couldn't. Now they feel more connected. She paused, searching for the right words. Like I'm becoming a whole person instead of just a collection of defense mechanisms. Dr. Thompson smiled. That's an incredibly insightful observation, Lily. Integration is a crucial part of healing from trauma. Is that why I don't feel the need to run anymore, or push people away quite so hard? Likely, yes. When we begin to feel safer in our own skin, we can start to feel safer with others as well. After the session, Lily headed to the stables for her afternoon work with Midnight. Since the incident with the BLM official, they'd made remarkable progress. With Marcus's guidance, she had been teaching Midnight basic commands, and they had even ventured outside his enclosure for short walks around the larger corral, a major milestone that had earned congratulations from everyone at the ranch. Today, however, as she approached the stables, she noticed a small crowd gathered near Midnight's enclosure. Dr. Thompson was there, along with Marcus, Sarah, and Her heart skipped. Grace Winters. But it wasn't Grace who drew Lily's attention. It was the couple standing beside her. A tall man with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair, and a petite woman with a warm smile and curly brown hair streaked with premature silver. The Carters. Lily froze, sudden panic rising in her throat. She wasn't ready. She hadn't prepared what to say, how to present herself. The letter, had they read it, did they think she was damaged, demanding too much trouble? Emma appeared at her side, as if materializing from thin air. "Breathe," she said quietly. "They've been asking about you all morning. They sound nice." "You talk to them." "For like 20 minutes, while Dr. Thompson was looking for you, they asked a ton of questions about what you like, what you're good at. They really want to know you, Lily." Before Lily could respond, Grace spotted her and waved, too late to retreat now. With Emma's encouraging presence beside her, Lily approached the group, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Lily," Grace said warmly, "I'd like you to meet Michael and Rebecca Carter." Michael extended his hand. "It's wonderful to finally meet you, Lily. We've heard so much about you." His handshake was firm but gentle. Rebecca's smile reached her eyes as she said, "Thank you for your letter. It was incredibly brave and honest." They had read it. Lily felt simultaneously exposed and relieved. "Thank you for considering me," she managed to say. "Perhaps we could talk somewhere more private," Dr. Thompson suggested, gesturing toward the main building. "Actually," Rebecca said, "we were hoping to see Lily work with Midnight first. If that's okay." "Your letter described your connection so beautifully, and we'd love to witness it firsthand." Lily glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "We were planning to practice leading exercises today. You're welcome to observe." As Lily entered Midnight's enclosure, she was acutely aware of the Carters watching. Midnight seemed to sense her nervousness, approaching with his ears perked forward, nickering softly as if in reassurance. "Hey boy," she said, stroking his neck, "we have an audience today. These people might be important to our future." Pushing her anxiety aside, Lily focused on the work they'd been practicing. She attached the lead rope to Midnight's halter and began guiding him in a series of gentle turns and stops. Midnight responded to the subtle pressure of the rope, and her voice commands with increasing precision. His earlier fears of being led now replaced by confident cooperation. "Now for the challenging part," Marcus called from the fence. "Let's try the gate again." This had been their sticking point. Midnight still associated gates with capture, with the traumatic separation from his herd. Each time they approached the enclosure's gate, his anxiety would spike, though he'd been getting incrementally better with each session. Lily led him in a wide circle, gradually spiraling closer to the gate. "Easy," she murmured as they approached. "I'm right here with you." Midnight's steps slowed, his muscles tensing visibly, but he didn't stop or pull away, continuing to follow Lily's lead with obvious trust, if not comfort. When they reached the gate, Lily stopped, giving him time to process the proximity. "Remember how we did this yesterday? Step by step. No rush." Marcus carefully opened the gate, the hinges creaking slightly. Midnight's head shot up, nostrils flaring, but Lily maintained calm, steady pressure on the lead rope. "I know it's scary," she said. "Change always is. But sometimes the scariest steps lead to the best places." As if understanding her words, Midnight took a tentative step forward, then another. And suddenly they were through the gate, standing in the larger corral. A small cheer erupted from the observers. "Excellent work, both of you," Marcus said, genuine pride in his voice. For the next 20 minutes, Lily led Midnight around the larger enclosure, practicing the same commands in the new space. Though more alert and occasionally startled by unfamiliar sounds, Midnight remained responsive to her guidance, his trust in her evident to everyone watching. When they finally returned to his enclosure, Lily removed the halter and gave him a final pat. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it." As she exited, the Carters approached, their expressions impressed and thoughtful. "That was remarkable," Michael said. "The connection between you two is undeniable. He trusts you," Rebecca added, "and that's clearly hard-won trust." Lily nodded, uncertain how to respond to their praise. "He's taught me a lot." "Now," Dr. Thompson said, "perhaps we could all talk about next steps." In his office, Lily sat between Emma and Grace, while the Carters took the couch opposite. Dr. Thompson outlined the proposed arrangement. Lily would live with the Carters in Albuquerque, but return to Sunrise Ranch 3 days a week to continue her work with Midnight and participate in select therapeutic activities. "We've discussed this extensively," Michael said, "and we want to support whatever arrangement best serves Lily's healing journey." "We both work from home most days," Rebecca explained. "Michael is a software developer, and I'm an editor for a publishing house. Our schedules are flexible, which would make the ranch visits entirely manageable." "And," Michael added, looking directly at Lily, "we want you to know that we read every word of your letter. Your honesty about your past, your needs, your concerns, it meant a lot to us." Rebecca leaned forward. "We don't expect you to immediately feel at home with us, Lily. Trust takes time. As you clearly understand better than most, we're prepared to move at whatever pace works for you." Something in their sincere expressions, in the thoughtful way they addressed her concerns without dismissing them, eased the knot of anxiety in Lily's chest. "There's one more thing we wanted to discuss," Michael continued, glancing at Dr. Thompson. "We've been talking with Director Collins about Midnight's future." Lily tensed immediately. "What about it?" "We have 5 acres outside Albuquerque," Rebecca explained. "With proper facilities, it could be a suitable home for a rehabilitated Mustang. We've begun the application process to become approved adopters through the BLM's adoption program." "You want to adopt Midnight?" Lily's voice was barely above a whisper, hope and disbelief warring in her chest. "If he's deemed suitable for adoption, and if you think it would be beneficial for both of you," Michael clarified, "we understand that he's not a pet, but a wild animal learning to coexist with humans. It would require significant commitment from all of us. We'd need to build appropriate facilities," Rebecca added, "and you would need to continue working with him daily, teaching us how to maintain the trust you've established." Lily looked to Marcus, who had joined them. "Is that possible?" "It's not common for formerly wild Mustangs to be placed in private homes," Marcus admitted. "But given the unique circumstances, and with proper facilities and ongoing support, it could work. Midnight has made extraordinary progress with you." "We don't want to separate you two," Rebecca said softly. "Not when your bond has been so healing for both of you." The rest of the meeting passed in a blur as details were discussed, timelines, requirements, assessments that would need to be completed. Throughout it all, Lily sat in stunned silence, struggling to process this unexpected turn of events. Not only were the Carters accepting her request to maintain her connection with Midnight, they were actively working to ensure it could continue indefinitely. When the meeting concluded, Emma squeezed her hand. "Told you they were nice," she whispered. "But they seem to genuinely care about what matters to you," Grace observed as they walked together toward the dining hall for lunch. "That's not something I see often in potential placements." Lily nodded, still processing. "It almost seems too good to be true." "I understand that skepticism," Grace said. "Given your experiences, It's protective to expect disappointment rather than hope. But sometimes, Lily, good things do happen. Sometimes people do follow through on their promises. The Carters joined everyone for lunch, conversing easily with the staff and teams. Lily observed them carefully, looking for any signs of insincerity or hidden agendas, but found none. Rebecca asked thoughtful questions about the ranch's programs, while Michael discussed sustainable agriculture with one of the staff members who maintained the vegetable gardens. "What do you think?" Emma asked as they cleared their trays after the meal. "I don't know yet," Lily admitted. "They seem real, not like they're trying to save me or fix me." "That's a good start." Before the Carters left, they asked to speak with Lily privately. They walked together to a bench overlooking the desert landscape, sitting in companionable silence for a moment before Michael spoke. "Oh, we want you to have all the time you need to make this decision, Lily. This isn't about what we want, it's about what's best for you." "Why me?" Lily asked, the question that had been burning inside her. "You could foster any kid, ones without all my complications." Rebecca's expression softened. "Your letter, Lily. The way you articulated your experiences, your insights about trust and healing, it showed a depth of self-awareness that most adults never achieve. And frankly," Michael added, "we see ourselves in some of your struggles. Rebecca grew up in the foster system too, and he hesitated. "I had my own battles with trauma after serving in the military. We both know something about building walls to protect ourselves, and about the courage it takes to lower them." For the first time, Lily looked at them, really looked, and saw not just potential foster parents, but people with their own complex stories, their own healing journeys. "We don't expect perfection," Rebecca said gently. "We expect hard days, setbacks, moments when trust feels impossible. We're prepared for that reality. And," Michael added with a smile, "we're prepared to learn everything we can about Mustang care, if that's what it takes to support your bond with Midnight." As they prepared to leave, Rebecca handed Lily a small, wrapped package. "Something to think about while you're deciding," she said. After they'd gone, Lily opened it alone in her cabin. Inside was a journal bound in soft leather with a note tucked into the first page. "Lily, sometimes the hardest stories to tell are our own, but in the telling, we reclaim them, transforming them from burdens that crush us into foundations that support us. Whatever you decide about coming to live with us, know that your story matters, your voice matters. Your healing matters. With hope and respect, Rebecca and Michael." That night, Emma found Lily sitting on her cabin steps, staring at the stars. "Earth to Lily," she said, plopping down beside her. "You've been in another dimension all evening. Just thinking about the Carters, about everything. How much has changed since I got here, how much I've changed." Emma nudged her shoulder. "For what it's worth, I like the new Lily. She actually laughs at my jokes occasionally. Your jokes are terrible. See, the old Lily would have just glared at me." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Emma spoke again, her tone more serious. "Are you going to do it? Go live with them?" "I think so," Lily said slowly, surprising herself with the certainty she felt. "It feels right, and not just because of Midnight. You deserve it, you know, a real home. People who care about you, all of it." Lily turned to her friend, struck by a sudden realization. "I'm going to miss you." "Please," Emma scoffed, though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "You're going to be here 3 days a week. You can't get rid of me that easily. Plus, Albuquerque's not that far. My parents already said they'd drive me to visit once you're settled." "You told your parents already?" "Of course. They're invested in the Lily Anderson redemption arc. My mom's already planning a housewarming gift. The absurdity of it, of people making plans around her, including her in their futures without hesitation, struck Lily with such force that she began to laugh. And once she started, she couldn't stop, the laughter bubbling up from some long-sealed place inside her, carrying with it years of tension and fear. Emma joined in, both of them laughing until they were breathless, tears streaming down their faces. When they finally quieted, Lily felt lighter than she had in years, as if something essential had been released, making space for new possibilities. "I should go finish my chores before lights out," Emma said, standing and brushing off her jeans. "See you at breakfast." "Yeah," Lily said. "See you at breakfast." Alone again, Lily opened the journal the Carters had given her. After a moment's hesitation, she began to write, "My name is Lily Anderson. For most of my life, I've been defined by what happened to me, by the pain others inflicted, by the labels in my file, by the walls I built to survive. But that's not the whole story. Not anymore. This is the story of how a wild horse named Midnight helped me find my voice, my courage, and just maybe my way home." 6 months later, autumn painted the New Mexico landscape in shades of gold and amber. Lily stood in the newly constructed paddock behind the Carters' home, watching as Midnight explored his expanded territory with cautious curiosity. The transformation of the property had been remarkable. Michael had worked tirelessly to build appropriate fencing, a shelter, and a small training area, all designed with input from Marcus and wild horse experts. "He seems to approve of the new section," Rebecca observed, joining Lily at the fence. She handed her a mug of hot chocolate, steam curling into the crisp morning air. "He's adjusting well," Lily agreed. "Each time we expand his space, it takes him less time to feel comfortable." This was their routine now, gradual steps toward a new normal. 3 days a week, Lily still visited Sunrise Ranch, participating in therapy sessions and helping Marcus with other horses in the program. The remaining days, she attended the local high school and continued her work with Midnight at the Carters' home. The transition hadn't been without challenges. Lily still had nightmares occasionally, still struggled with accepting care and concern without suspicion, still found herself bracing for rejection during moments of conflict. But the Carters had proven remarkably patient, neither pushing too hard nor withdrawing when faced with her defensive mechanisms. "Emma called earlier," Rebecca said. "She's coming for the weekend. Michael's already planning his famous pancake breakfast." Lily smiled. Emma's monthly visits had become a highlight for everyone. Since completing the program at Sunrise Ranch, Emma had returned to her parents' home, starting her senior year with newfound confidence and stability. Their friendship had deepened despite the distance, each serving as the other's steadfast supporter through ongoing challenges and victories. "Dr. Thompson will be joining us too," Rebecca continued. "He wants to observe Midnight's adaptation to his new environment for his research paper." The paper: Parallel Healing, Trauma Recovery Through Human Equine Connection, had become something of a sensation in therapeutic circles. Lily and Midnight's journey, carefully anonymized, was helping to shape new approaches to trauma treatment for both humans and animals. Did you finish your college essay?" Rebecca asked, nodding toward the house where Lily's laptop sat open on the kitchen table. "Almost," Lily said. "It's hard to condense everything into 500 words. Your story is worth telling, in whatever form it takes." That was the thing about Rebecca. She never pushed, but she consistently reinforced Lily's voice, her agency, her worth. Michael was the same, in his quieter way, always ready to listen, to offer practical support without expectation. They weren't perfect. No family was. but they were genuine in their commitment to creating a home where healing could continue for all of them. Later that afternoon, Grace Winters visited for her monthly check-in. They sat in the living room, where photographs now lined the mantel. Lily with Midnight, Lily and Emma at the ranch, Lily with the Carters at her school's fall festival. "How's everything going?" Grace asked. "Good," Lily said, then corrected herself, part of her ongoing practice of honest communication. "Mostly good. I had a rough week after that history project triggered some memories, but we worked through it," Grace nodded. In the adoption discussion, the question still sent a flutter of anxiety through Lily's chest. The Carters had broached the subject carefully 2 months ago, their desire to adopt Lily, to make their family legally permanent before she turned 18. The conversation had sent her into an emotional tailspin, old fears resurging with surprising force. "We're taking it step by step," she said. "And they're not rushing me." "That's wise," Grace approved. "And Midnight's official adoption status?" "The final paperwork came through last week. He's officially ours." The pride in Lily's voice was unmistakable. The BLM's approval of Midnight's adoption had been a hard-won victory, requiring multiple evaluations and steadfast advocacy from Director Collins and Dr. Thompson. After Grace left, Lily went back to the paddock. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the land. Midnight approached as she leaned on the fence, his movements now confident and deliberate where once they had been fearful and defensive. "We made it," she told him softly, stroking his powerful neck. "Against all odds." From the house came the sounds of Michael preparing dinner, Rebecca's laughter as they discussed the upcoming weekend plans, normal sounds, family sounds. Sounds that no longer made Lily flinch or retreat, as if understanding the significance of the moment. Midnight pressed his forehead against hers in the gesture that had become their ritual of connection. Lily closed her eyes, breathing in the familiar scent of him, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing align with hers. This was what healing looked like, she realized. Not the absence of scars, but the transformation of wounds into wisdom. Not forgetting the past, but not being defined by it either. Finding connection despite every reason to remain isolated. Building trust despite every instinct to withdraw. The journal the Carters had given her was now half filled with her writing. Reflections, memories, hopes, fears, all in her own voice. On the first page, she had written words that still resonated, that guided her ongoing journey. "Some souls, like wild mustangs, aren't meant to be broken, only understood. Some hearts don't need fixing, only witnessing. Some stories don't require happy endings, only honest ones. This is my story. This is our story. Wild, wounded, healing. Free." That night, for the first time, when Rebecca gently asked if she'd given more thought to the adoption, Lily didn't deflect or change the subject. Instead, she took a deep breath and spoke the truth that had been growing inside her for months. "I think I'm ready to talk about it, about becoming a permanent part of this family, about belonging here." The word belonging no longer felt like a dangerous hope. It felt like a possibility, a choice, a future she was finally brave enough to claim. Outside, Midnight nickered softly in the moonlight, no longer pacing, no longer restless, at home in his own skin, in his own story, in the unlikely family that had formed around a wounded girl and a wild horse who had saved each other in all the ways that mattered most.